Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
My friends and I always tune into the Todd Levitt Law Show. Todd is entertaining, informative, and always delivers the goods.
Todd might not tell you what you want to hear, but he's going to tell you what you need to hear. And all you got to do is listen.
Hold on, Todd. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We could live for 1,000 years, but if I hurt you, I make wine from your tears. I told you that we could fly, 'cause we all have wings, but some of us don't know why. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never, ever tear us apart.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Good morning, good evening, good night, Happy New Year. I'm yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt, once again broadcasting and podcasting, yes, again, in the Black Diamond Group mothership, in a beautiful white-filled nutrient field, but it's green, it's full of nutrients, and I'm back with my good friend. The water is wet, the sky is blue, and Craig Russell, we all love you. Happy New Year, Craig.
Happy New Year, Todd. Celebrating 37 years on the radio all across the fruited plain is Todd L. Levitt. You've been on the radio for a long time, man.
I truly have been on the radio since about 20 years.
Okay.
Started off in Metro Detroit on another station I will not mention, talk radio, FM, when it came to town. When I relocated up here to the great North, God's country, been broadcasting ever since on Black Diamond Group stations, Craig. How about you? You've been in radio for like 500 years.
Close to that, 520. No.
At least.
It'll be 31 years in March. 31 years in March. So.
And you are so good at it, Craig.
Well, thank you very much. And you are good at it, too. You would not have lasted this long if what you were doing didn't resonate with the people and didn't, get through to somebody and didn't make a some kind of a difference in somebody's lives. You wouldn't be able to keep doing it if that wasn't happening. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. Likewise. Big shout out to all the listeners out there. We love all you listeners, and we love hearing from you. Happy New Year's to all of you. And by the way, if you happen to run into me out and about, and it's, let's say, the 14th of January, I'm cutting off Happy New Year's wishes, Craig. There comes a point in time, Craig, would you agree? If you're into March or February, Happy New Year's, it should stop at that point.
Yeah. No, you literally 2 weeks after the first of the year.
2 weeks.
Is pushing it. That's pushing it. I think you go 10 days tops.
Yeah.
Because it's like Christmas music. Everyone loves Christmas music, but tell me on December 26th at about noon, do you really want to hear All I Want for Christmas Is You again? No, by that point, you're sick of it. You're done with Christmas at that point. Christmas is very anticlimactic. It's the day and then it's over. Most of our holidays are like that. Halloween happens and then it's over. And New Year's is one of the few things that still kind of drags on into the new year.
Because every day it's part of the new year, whereas Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, one day, it's over.
Done.
It's over. It's always but it's always the new year. So each day is part of the new. You could say, "Hey, Craig, happy February into the new year. Happy March." But
but then
hey,
it's
Craig,
like Groundhog's Day. Then you just keep repeating the same thing. Hey, Happy New Year on January 15th. It's like no. By the 10th, it's done. You're done. You're into the new year. Now let's get on with it.
And we open the show today with "Never Tear Us Apart" by who, Craig?
That would be In Excess. Tragic story about In Excess, but that's a great song. That's one of my favorite In Excess song. Love that song.
Yeah, and that one goes out to all the lovers out there who love one another.
Lovers.
Never tear us apart. But Craig, often we talk about music on and off the air.
Sure.
What would you have opened the show with today?
Well, it might be kind of stereotypical, but I probably would have opened it up with U2's New Year's Day, since, New Year's Day happened on Friday, and now you're probably hearing this at least on Sunday, or if not a little after Sunday. I would have opened up with U2 New Year's Day.
Well, let's play it.
All right. I don't know about you, Todd, but that is certainly reliving my youth of late high school, early college. U2, those guys were rocking it out. I liked earlier U2 than before when they became real commercial. I think Pride was about the end of my really digging U2, because then they got really popular and really commercial. I like the little more raw stuff that they did.
I like the early U2.
Yeah.
I also like The Alarm. We have played The Alarm.
Oh yeah,
on the
The
show
Alarm
in the
is
past.
good band.
Yeah, it seems like U2 overshadowed pushed The Alarm to the side.
Oh yeah,
the Alarm was great with that Scottish Irish twang we love so much. That was great.
Well, there's not a lot of Irish bands that have surpassed U2. There was Big Country, there was Van Morrison. There's not a lot of bands from, the Simply Red was from Ireland.
The
Cranberries from Ireland, but U2 pretty much. When you start to think of go-to Irish bands, U2 is the biggest one, I would say, far and away.
Good point.
What about you?
Craig,
So now we opened the show with In Excess, but what kind of a song would you have picked if you would have? I mean, you usually pick the music on the show, but if you had to do it all over again, if you had to pick a second song to open up the show, what would you have picked?
I would have destroyed the opening today, albeit I did pick Never Tear Us Apart.
I was going to say, you already did that, but still.
Yeah, exactly. But I would have opened up with Wango Tango by Uncle Ted, just to destroy the show on the new year. I would have been just turning over tables, breaking dishes, just, shaking my head, screaming out loud with Wango Tango. But to slow it down a bit and play Tesla Changes.
Ooh, okay. Let's do that.
Great song for all the New Year Day lovers out there. Let's put some changes on, Craig, and we'll come back later with some Wango Tango for sure.
Changes Time's making changes in my life, rearranging. Can't seem to stop the hands of time. I remember I was so young, I was much too young to see. Now I'm older, growing older, and I see things differently. Oh, can't you see? It's changing you and me. Time's making changes. Time's making changes in my life. Time's rearranging, changing you and me. Faces.
That Tesla, pretty. Those are a pretty talented band. They did a lot of good stuff back in the late '80s, early '90s.
Totally underrated.
Yes,
One of my
I would agree with
all-time
that.
favorite hair band groups, completely.
I would agree with that. Love that signs everywhere. There's signs. Remember that song?
I do.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be stuck in my noggin all day thanks to you, Craig.
That's what I'm here for.
I appreciate it. But hey, Craig, we have a huge show opening up the new year, 2021 for the listeners, all the downloaders out there all over podcast planet and on the radio, listening on the app and wherever they're listening. We have a huge show for the listeners today and plenty to come throughout the year ahead.
I know. It's weird. Usually this time between like the holidays between Christmas and New Year's, kind of slow. You know, there's not a lot of news going on. Well, it seems like there's nothing but news going on right now, especially in Michigan and around the country. It just seems like there's just a lot of things
All over the
going
world.
on. Yeah.
All
there's
over the
just
globe.
A lot of stuff happening. It's really weird. Usually this is a much slower
Yeah.
time.
You know, we are just stardust here, Craig, right? Aren't we just part of this entire universe?
That's what I've been told. That's what I've been told. That's what I've
Hey,
been told.
by the way, we are going to be talking about the fact, albeit it's 2021, what a huge year 2020. Well, it was a horrible year for the most part, but it was a great year for weed. So
Okay.
2020 was huge for weed consumption and sales. We are also going to be talking about Michigan, albeit we're an international show, but this applies to every country and every state and individuals who may be in this position. The Senate bill 1254 passed the House and the Senate, 1254. Very important bill. And at the time that we are recording this show, it's possible the governor may have signed, may not have signed at this point, but we are definitely going to be talking about 1254.
And that's Michigan. Remember, the Michigan House and the Michigan Senate.
Michigan.
Yes,
Michigan.
This is a Michigan thing, but it's something that's happened in a couple of other states, and it's something that could happen in many other states as well, following the lead, because, you know, Michigan are leaders, not followers.
Right.
So, so we will get to all of that. We'll also probably have a complaint from Todd, I'm sure, and we'll talk about how we celebrated the New Year. We need to take a break, though, on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We'll be right back.
All right, it's the wango, the tango, one, two, three. Come on, boys. Time to wango. My baby, she like to rock. My baby, she like to roll. My baby, she can dance all night. My baby got no control. She do the wango tango. My baby, she scream and shout. My baby, she move it out. My baby, she take a chance. My baby got a brand new dance. Wango tango. Wango tango. It's a wango tango. Ooh yeah. Baby.
Welcome back to 2021, our first show of the year, Craig Russell. I am attorney Todd L. Levitt. And you are who, Craig?
I am not attorney Craig L. Russell, but I am Craig. Hi.
Craig R. Russell.
Craig M. Russell, to be exact.
Oh, Craig M. Russell. You
You
just
know-
switched it up in the alphabet there.
Do you know what the M stands for? No, that's my actual middle name. Is
Yeah,
my middle initial.
Mommy. I thought you were playing one of those games. I'm going to give you a word and tell me what you're thinking.
No, my actual name is Craig M. Russell. What does the M stand for? Do you know?
It stands for nothing. It's just a middle initial. Your parents got lazy and said, let's just throw an initial out there. So you are Craig M. Russell, which stands for nothing but the letter M, as said on Sesame Street.
Can I give you the answer to that?
Sure.
That's not correct. Although I will tell you, fun fact, my grandfather's name was W. Cleland Russell, and the W didn't stand for anything. My father's name was William C. Russell, still is, he's still alive, and the C doesn't stand for anything. But my name is Craig Matthew Russell. The M actually stands for Matthew. So
strong name, very strong name.
I have a middle initial, so I have a middle name. So
it's a
my
great name.
Grandfather and father didn't, but there you go. So, and we don't even know what Todd L. Levitt stands for. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah. Hey, but you have to listen to prior shows. Hey, we opened up, though. Thank you for that, Craig, with Uncle Ted. We love Uncle Ted. Wango Tango. That's how I want to open up the New Year show. Just going Wango Tango and just jumping up and down right now.
As producer of the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, my goal in 2021 is to get Ted Nugent on this show this year. It's my goal. It might be only just a goal, but that's my goal for the year.
It's a great goal, Craig. It's a great goal. So we should talk some law going into 2021, should we not?
We probably should. There's a lot of things going on.
Last year, and we talked about it on this show, this is Michigan specific. The governor of Michigan signed the clean slate laws that expanded the expungement laws, a.k.a. setting aside convictions in the state of Michigan. So if you were an individual, and it applied to multiple convictions, whereas in years past, the setting aside conviction expungement laws only applied to certain low-level misdemeanors and or one felony conviction. And there's a multitude of felonies that have always been excluded from being set aside at any time in your lifetime. And I think the audience, in fact, I know the audience is smart enough to know which ones those are. So the governor signed the clean slate laws that said after a period of 7 to 10 years, 10 years for certain felonies, 7 years for misdemeanors, just to refresh the listening audience memories, the state of Michigan would automatically set these aside. So you don't have to go to court. You do not have to file setting aside conviction applications unless you would like to do so prior to the 7 and 10 years if you qualify under the 5-year statute of limitations tolling on those convictions. But in any event, those laws, the clean slate laws, Craig, absolutely unequivocally did not include convictions under the Motor Vehicle Code of 257, operating while intoxicated, operating while visibly impaired, operating with a high BAC of 0.17 or higher, and or under 21 with a blood alcohol content. And it's really, it was really disappointing when we talked about the clean slate laws on this show that those offenses and convictions were not included to be set aside. And it sort of blew my noggin in the sense that, okay, look, you can make a mistake. You could break a window, damage property, commit retail fraud, get caught up, transferring an illegal substance to another individual, larceny. I could go on and on with these misdemeanors, disorderly conduct, urinating in public. You could make all these poor choices, one moment in time and have the ability to set these aside at some point. But when it comes to anything and everything that has to do with drinking and driving, it was excluded from being set aside. And there's nothing fair about that.
Well, so I have a question. So why do you think this is now coming about? Obviously you have your reasons for thinking that those things aren't fair and they should have been changed a long time ago. But why is it all of a sudden now happening? What has spurned on, or what has spawned the rationale to do it now?
I think an outcry from the people. I mean, the laws and the government belong to us, the people. They do not belong to the elected officials. They do as citizens. They do not belong to those who sit in power. They do as citizens, but everything belongs to us, the people. And And a big shout out to Michigan bill sponsor, Senator Ed McBroom. Great guy, great senator. Senator Ed McBroom. That's a great name, isn't it?
It is a great name.
Yeah, he was one of the bill sponsors, and he's a Republican from Vulcan, Vulcan, in the state of Michigan. You wouldn't believe there's.
I was going to say, does he know Leonard Nimoy and Captain Kirk from
I knew
Star
you were going
Trek?
to say that.
I'm like, it just writes it writes itself, man. You know, come on. I mean, can't make that stuff up.
Okay, so that township does exist to the great state of Superior, aka the Upper Peninsula, and it's in Vulcan. Get this, Craig. It's in Norway Township.
Sure, that makes perfect sense.
And it's a civil town. Yeah, and it's in Dickinson County, in the state of Michigan. Population was 10 years ago at 1,489. God's country up there. So yeah. So big shout out to that state senator for introducing the Senate Bill 12, which is now known as 1254, which passed the House and the Senate, Craig. And I just think it was an outpouring of hypocrisy that led to, this state senator taking it upon himself with other great senators from our state. We're talking about state, folks, not federal.
Right.
To push, and also in our area from DeWitt, Mr. Rep. Graham Filler, state rep, was also a key player in shepherding the initial package, had a hand in this as well. But here's the situation, folks. So as of the recording of this show, the bill in Michigan, Senate Bill 1254, passed the House, passed the Senate, and if the governor has signed or is about to sign at the time of the show, it was on her desk in the state of Michigan, it will allow for expungement of first-time offenders for operating while intoxicated and certain other offenses under 257. A huge, monumental decision, Craig, that affects listeners and individuals and citizens in so many different ways. We're going to talk about them.
Well, she's probably, if she hasn't signed it already, more than likely she's going to sign it. Usually it gets past the House and the Senate, and very rarely, at least on the state government, state level, that pretty much means she's pretty much going to sign it, and that will end up becoming law. So
I hope so.
To run down some of the finer points of it, I think I want to know what exactly is it going to end up helping people with.
So essentially, an expungement of a person's criminal records seals them from public view, meaning, Craig, the conviction would no longer show up in a background check. I mean, it could, and we've talked about this, it could always be accessed by law enforcement and court personnel if an individual is out there committing future crimes. But here's the thing, okay? The fact that everything else can be forgiven and not drinking and driving offenses, certain ones, I'm sure, is just hypocrisy. Now, how does this help people? So if you are convicted in the state of Michigan and across the country, so be sure to all of our listeners out there, whichever country or state you're listening to this show on, check with your state laws and legislators. But how this will help people, if you're convicted of operating while visibly impaired, 4.0 to 93-day misdemeanor in the state of Michigan, if you are a CDL holder and you have the ability to operate, an 18-wheeler, certain construction equipment, drive a truck for work purposes, and you have what's called a CDL, if you're convicted of impaired driving, you lose that CDL. If you're convicted of multiple offenses under the 257 operating while intoxicated code, your CDL could be gone for 10 years, and in some cases, permanently. So it's going to help those men and women out there who want to obtain CDLs. If you are convicted of certain offenses, depending upon if you're habitualized and you're a habitual offender, it could affect your constitutional right under the Second Amendment to possess firearms, to have a CPL, a concealed pistol license. But if you are convicted of a first offense for impaired driving in Michigan, operating while visibly impaired, you do lose your CPL for a period of time up to, I believe it's a mandatory 1 year. But expunging something under the motor vehicle code for drinking and driving will lower your insurance rates. It will allow you to enter Canada without hopefully being stopped at the border when Canada opens back up. It will allow you to seek employment in job capacities, folks, whereby, let's say there's a company car or a truck you have to drive or operate, or a mechanic who, because of your record, the liability issue. It's a liability issue, Craig. A lot of employers out there will run somebody's driving record and criminal history. And if your employment or potential employment involves anything to do with operating a motor vehicle, test driving a motor vehicle, and you have on your record a conviction for drinking and driving in the state of Michigan, the employer may take a look and say, hey, that's too risky. Our insurance company will not insure someone like you to work for us under those circumstances. So this will open up the way for more employment opportunities.
What if now, when you say expungement and things like this, you say that, if you do a background check, you wouldn't be able to see any of these offenses that wouldn't be happening. Could it be used against you, like, say, if you committed another crime or you had another misdemeanor or something like that? Could they bring this up and go, look, there's a pattern here. Even though this one's been expunged, it still shows to the fact that this person does this is a habitual offender. Can that be brought up in that respect, or is it just not seen by anybody?
That's a great question, Craig. No. So if you have something expunged or set aside from the public record, if you happen to make another poor choice and are arrested, convicted, they cannot enhance the penalty. There's nothing to enhance. You're not going to, be habitualized. They're not going to. There's certain laws in Michigan whereby, let's say, for instance, you had a conviction 3, 4, 5 years ago, and now you're charged with a misdemeanor offense. Because it's your second misdemeanor, it could be enhanced to a felony. In Michigan, if you have 3 offenses for drinking and driving in a lifetime, it's called Heidi's Law. You could be charged and convicted of a felony in Michigan. So it used to be you would have to have 3 within 10 years, but now it's 3 in a lifetime. 2 convictions in a lifetime, is 5 days to a year in prison in the state of Michigan. So, look, I've said this for almost 30 years that I've almost been practicing law. It's unbelievable that you could be a first-time offender and there's laws out there that allow you to walk away with no criminal history. There's something called a delay of sentence, something called HYTA, H-Y-T-A, Holmes Youthful Training Act, if you're between the ages 17 and 24 in the state of Michigan. And a prosecutor and the judge have no objection to you utilizing this law, then you could walk away with a clean record. And as far as under the 333 code, possession of marijuana, other certain drugs, there's something called 7411, 333.7411. You could walk away clean. When we used to have minor in possession of alcohol as misdemeanors, you could get a deferral for that. And so year in and year out, I would represent, and I still do, individuals who are charged with certain misdemeanors and other crimes. And if everything lines up, the prosecutor will agree to a deferral statute, a delay of sentence, or one of the other statutes. But when it comes to anything and everything under the Motor Vehicle Code, once you're convicted, there's no bite of the apple. There are no laws that currently exist in Michigan that will say, okay, Craig, you are being charged with operating while intoxicated, a 6.93-day misdemeanor. But there are no laws that if you plead guilty after a period of time, it will be expunged from your record. So, and so the fact that now you have these men and women in Lansing, in our state, who have gone one step further and it's passed the House and passed the Senate, Senate Bill 1254. It was put on the governor's desk. And again, this shows, when we recorded the show, it might have already been signed. It will allow for expungement of certain drinking and driving offenses in the state of Michigan. And that is just fantastic on so many levels.
It's great to see things like this starting to open up again, although it could end up leading to bigger problems down the road. It's good when our rights and our privileges... It's for the people, yeah. It's good when our rights and our privileges are being taken into account when they start to make some of these laws and start coming up with some of these regulations and restrictions and stuff. Hey, we got to take a break on the Todd Levitt Law Show. We've got more law and more Todd coming back.
Happy New Year.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We could live for 1,000 years, but if I hurt you, I make wine from your tears. And we could fly, 'cause we all have wings, but some of us don't know why. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never, ever
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Coming back strong, and that one goes out to Jen. Never Tear Us Apart by In Excess, Craig. They are one of my all-time favorite Australian groups from the 1980s.
You know, there's not many of them. There's like literally three.
Men at Work.
Men at
Work.
There's Men at Work. There's In Excess, and then there's Midnight Oil. That was a great band.
Midnight Oil. Those guys were just great.
Great band. And there's not much after that. ABBA. No, ABBA wasn't from Australia. Olivia Newton-John was from Australia, but not really.
One of these weeks, we're going to have to play some Rush.
Okay.
And Rage Against the Machine.
Okay, we could do that. Hey, so we were talking about what is it? Section 1254 now.
Senate Bill 1254 adding. So what this bill is going to do, it's not a new law. It's going to amend the current statute to include setting aside convictions for certain operating while intoxicated, impaired convictions.
Now, I would say
after a period of time.
In most cases, that's probably a good thing. As we've talked about on this show many times, young people sometimes will make poor choices, have a lapse of judgment, make a mistake, and now they're not going to be severely penalized for that when it used to be that could really harm them and harm their future when they're making a poor choice as a young person. Now, here's what I'm going to throw out at you. So you said before you get 3 convictions and then in a lifetime. It used to be 3 in 10 years. Now it's 3 in a lifetime before you can really have some serious problems, correct? Did I hear you say that correctly?
Yes and no. You have serious problems if you have 1 conviction on your record. That's why this is such a big deal.
Okay.
But 3 convictions in a lifetime in the state of Michigan, the prosecutor has the option to charge you as a felon because it's called Heidi's Law. 3 in a lifetime. It used to be 3 within 10 years.
So you
could have 2 in the 80s and now get 1 2021. They could charge you, and they do, with a felony.
So in theory, in this situation, so you get 3. So with this, let's say one of them happens as you're a youngster, and that gets expunged. So now that basically resets it. So in all reality, you get 4 at this point. So now I would argue, let's say these 4 happen in the course of about 6 or 7 years. It's possible you now are giving someone an extra chance who has a serious problem and really could have maybe used some training, some alcohol awareness programs. You know what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? You're opening up the door for a 4th opportunity for somebody who's maybe got a bigger problem than just making a mistake as a youngster. Maybe this person's got some serious alcohol problems, has some serious issues, and now you're giving them an extra opportunity to possibly hurt themselves, possibly kill somebody. If you only had 3, maybe that would have stopped the 4th one. I'm just saying, albeit I agree, I think it's a good thing because I think people who are younger make mistakes, and that might not necessarily be indicative of how they're going to live the rest of their lives, and they shouldn't necessarily be severely punished for those mistakes younger. But
so what you're arguing, so let me just get this straight. Your commentary and what you are saying is, look, the law is going to allow a first-time offender to set aside a conviction for drinking and driving in the state of Michigan.
Right.
That individual who may have a drinking problem,
sure,
who may have a substance abuse problem,
yes,
can now go out, drink and drive again, put everyone at risk, themselves, kids, families, other individuals, and you are saying because they already had one removed, are you saying that this sort of gave them a green light to say, hey, I just got one removed, I'm going to go out and do it again?
Well, kind of, but it gives somebody an extra opportunity now. Because here's
what I would disagree with.
Okay.
Here's what happens, because I've represented individuals.
I'm sure this is
for drinking and driving, drugging offenses for decades.
This is in your wheelhouse. This is totally in your wheelhouse.
Correct.
This is right in this is a fastball right down the middle of the plate. You're going to get out of the park.
The majority of people that I have represented of all ages, it's just not young people who get caught. People of all ages get caught drinking and driving. It's not just young people. It's people of all ages. And what I have found is that for the most part, first-time offenders, okay, for the most part, let's have an example. How old are you truly, Craig? You're not 89.
I'm 51. Just turned 51.
So if you are 51 and you call my office, Levitt Law Firm, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and you say, hey, I was leaving a casino or I was out celebrating the new year and it was in the morning and I happened to pull over to make a phone call, but I had my lights turned off and an officer approached me and I looked suspicious, so an investigation took place. I was placed under arrest, eventually posted bond, and I'm now being charged with operating while intoxicated. And Todd, by the way, I'm 51 years of age. I have no criminal history, meaning I've never had anything expunged when I was younger. I've never had even a speeding ticket in my life. I'm 51. Now, that 51-year-old man or woman, this more than likely, based on my experience, will be a one and done.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's a first time that they're in trouble. It doesn't matter if it's a first, second, or third time in trouble. It's not a pleasant experience. But my experience, that's a one and done person. Albeit, I have represented men and women who are, of all ages. But let's talk about in their 50s. I'm in my 50s. Who, for whatever reason, in their late 40s or 50s, they go through a horrible breakup, divorce. COVID's taken place, and they just cannot keep it together for whatever reason. They go out, they get caught drinking, they're on bond, and within a short period of time, while on bond, they pick up a second offense. Okay? Now, this is a person who, I'm not a psychologist or I'm not a substance abuse, worker here. I'm not going to diagnose this individual as an alcoholic. Possibly there's some psychological issues there, but a lot of people, they make poor choices. They have psychological reasons why they do things, and they drink and they make poor choices. And there are those, Craig, who we have represented at my firm who have 4, 5, 6 convictions in a lifetime. May have had 2 in their 20s and 3 in their 30s, maybe 1 in their 40s and 1 in their maybe 2 in their 40s. But yet they've turned their life around. They've been sober now for 5, 10 years. And I'm really proud that we've been able to help those people out. There's a lot of young people, just like you and I were young at one time, who make poor choices. I mean, I can't even count how many times I made a poor decision after hanging out at the clubs and getting behind the wheel of a motor vehicle while intoxicated. Thank God we didn't kill anybody. But, one mistake should not affect you for an entire lifetime. And if you do have more than one mistake, under these new clean slate laws that the governor signed prior to the Senate Bill 1254, you definitely are going to, have your record cleaned in many ways.
Well, and that's the part I totally understand that. That's what I was saying. Look, if you are 18, 19, let's say you're just starting at Central, your freshman year, you're at school for 2 weeks, and you get in trouble. You get busted for DUI or something like that. That shouldn't be something that lives with you for the rest of your life. You make a poor choice as a young person, that's not necessarily going to dictate how you're going to be for the rest of your life. But what if somebody truly has a problem and they get at 19, they get their first DUI? Well, that gets expunged. Well, now they've got 3 more opportunities before being called a habitual offender. What if that third opportunity is the one where they kill a family because they were drinking and driving? What if there wouldn't have been that
It doesn't take a third. It takes a first-time offender to do that, Craig.
Sure, it could, but I'm just saying, what if the fourth time, that's that fourth time? What if that first time hadn't been expunged and they wouldn't have gotten a chance to get to number 4? Would that have maybe saved people's lives? That's the only thing I'm saying.
The question is, so I see your point, but the question is, when they received a second offense and or a third offense, whatever happened through the court system, once they were done serving time and probation, they went out and drank again.
True. Yeah. It's nothing that
that's what you're getting at here.
Well, but it's nothing that the first time being expunged is going to solve the problem. I'm just saying that the only thing is this gives somebody an extra chance possibly at causing some other harm, when before, if you only got the 3 chances.
The expungement, I don't agree or ascertain that the expungement is what would lead to that taking place. Now, as we talked about just in the past weeks, and we're not going to get into this, sobriety court, veterans court, drug court, the states have come around all across the country in forming these new programs. But a first-time expungement does not open the door, I believe, statistically. Do I have statistics here? No. But just on my overwhelming experience, does not lead to more offenses. If somebody, look, you could be 20 and get caught drinking and driving. Okay, first of all, the expungement laws in Michigan, you have to wait a period of 5 years before you can do anything. So if you get caught in year 1, all right, drinking and driving and placed on probation, and in year 2 or 3, you get caught again, well, first off, under the new Senate bill, which I have not read in its entirety yet, sorry, folks, I'm not so sure if you have 2 or 3 convictions on your record after a period of time, you will be in a position to set any of those aside.
Okay.
My understanding is it's for at least, at minimum, first-time offenders. So, Craig, if you're not going to get a break or set aside a conviction for a period of 5 years, and if during that 5-year period you're picking up minor possession of alcohol, other offenses, then it's obvious that you have a problem, and you're not even going to qualify for these expungements to begin with.
Okay.
And then again, the prosecutor and judge and attorney general can object to the motion to set aside the expungement. When I file a petition to set aside somebody's conviction, I have to send notice to the Michigan State Police, the attorney general's office, and the prosecutor's office in the county in which that person was convicted. They all have an opportunity to object to the petition, you see. And typically, as long as they meet the statutory requirements and you go before the judge and there's no objections, then the judge will sign the order, and that conviction can then be set aside, and the court notifies, the state of Michigan, the state police, and everything is removed from the criminal abstract. That's how it works. That's how setting aside a conviction works. So under these new laws, though, under the clean slate laws that we talked about in the past, not this new bill, but the clean slate laws, the courts, which are going to be just busy more than they are, they're the ones that are going to notify the state, and you will automatically receive expungements, folks, off your records. You will not have to fill out any application and hire an attorney under these new clean slate laws that were signed a few months back by the governor that will take effect in April of 2021, so stay tuned. But under this new legislation, which I'm all for and have been for years, you now have the opportunity, if you qualify, to have a first offense operating while intoxicated, impaired, or any combination. We have to see what the language is of the bill set aside, which is a great thing.
I totally agree. I think there's a lot of good parts to it. I just was
That was in
hoping
one breath, by the way.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. I was just hoping to make sure that it wouldn't end up causing problems down the road. Hey, this has been great talk, but we do have to get to some other law, including what a great year it was for consumption of marijuana.
Huge cannabis year, 2020.
Big cannabis year. We will dive into that when we come back on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
All is quiet on New Year's Day. A world in wild is underway. I want to be with you night and day. Nothing changes on New Year's Day. On New Year's Day, I will be with you again. I will be with you again.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, the first of 2021. Happy New Year to all of our listeners. We just appreciate everyone out there who listens on any platform, whether it's on Black Diamond Group Station, 98.5 WUPS, or some of the other ways you can listen to the show, Craig.
That'd be on podcast. You can have it on the 98.5 UPS app. You can see it on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Of course, you have your YouTube channel where you're doing mountain biking and things like that. I've got my YouTube channel, which is That Fast Food Guy. There's a whole slew of different ways that you can experience the Todd L. Levitt Law Show for yourself.
Absolutely. Hey, Craig, before we get to the huge year in weed during our last segment here on the show, we were at a grocery store a week ago.
Okay.
And as we were checking out, this little old lady was checking us out of this grocery store. She was a nice lady, had a face mask on. Probably, I mean, I'm not one of those Cedar Point workers that can guess your, your size, your
Sure.
weight, your age, but she was in her upper 60s, easy.
Okay.
And and I had been through this grocery store before, and she says she doesn't know my name. She doesn't even know who I am. I had a hat on, a face mask, and she says, "Hey, I got a joke for you." So she tells me a somewhat appropriate, cute joke.
Okay.
Which for me, okay, hello folks, look who you're talking to here. It opened the door for me to come back with a joke of my own. So as she said hers, I'm looking at Jen going, "Oh wow, that came from her." So it opened the door for me to start to tell her my appropriate little one-liner, and I think she knew what was coming, and she goes, "Nope, don't say it, don't say it, don't you say it." I mean, she was serious, like she was gonna call the First Amendment cops on me and throw me out of there, Craig.
Okay.
And but I gave her the punchline, and honestly, I thought I was gonna have to call a first responder because, she was so appalled that I gave her the punchline, which was very, very appropriate, folks. I'm not going to tell you what it is on the air, but it was no less appropriate. It was not sexual. It was nothing disrespectful to her as a woman. It was just a cute little joke I had in my, pocket I've been walking around with for decades that I heard when I was younger. And everybody else thought it was funny. But I just, so that's my complaint to the new year. If you're going to come at me with some kind of humor, I'm going to come back at you with appropriate, equal humor, and it should be fair playing field, Craig. So that's my complaint to the new year. this very nice lady. She threw one at me. I gave her one back. She didn't want to hear it. Then she should never have thrown the one at me in the first place.
All right, you want to hear, you say you got a joke and you kept in your back pocket for all these years. I've got one of those jokes. You want to hear my joke?
Sure.
Okay. Guy walks into a bar, smoking hot girl sitting at the end of the bar. And he walks in and he's like, oh, man, look at that. And he tells the bartender, I don't want to buy her a drink. So he buys her a drink. She nods and she drinks the drink. She comes over and she goes, how you doing? And he goes, I'm doing really good. And she goes, tell you what. She goes, I got a secret for you. And he goes, okay. She gets real closer to his ear and she goes, I will do anything for you for $100. And he looks back for a second and he goes, anything? And she goes, anything. He thinks about it for a second. He pulls out 100. He has her come to his ear. She comes down. He whispers, paint my house. All right, well, so Todd will continue on.
What? Craig, what?
Well, you thought it was going to be something dirty, and he's like, for $100, paint my house.
You took your smooth, sexy voice, took the listeners on a journey there, Craig. And listen, my attention span is that of a gnat sometimes. It's bad enough.
I know.
That
You were
took
gone.
me there.
I was
gone.
You were gone halfway through.
I was waiting for more.
Yeah, I know.
Here's a question for you in the new year.
Okay.
Did the makers of windshield wiper fluid ever figure out that those bottles have much more fluid in it that our containers that our cars hold and trucks hold?
Yes.
Come on, Craig. No way.
Why aren't they the same size as the container that you put it in? Why aren't they?
Are you saying they fixed that solution, or still you're always going to have a little bit left?
You have
over?
a little bit left over.
What is that?
I have a Jeep, and I put it in my Jeep.
What is that?
And there's always about 1/8 of the bottle left, and I feel like a doof having to keep that in my back of my Jeep. Because it rolls around and it makes a bunch of noise, and I'm thinking it's always going to leak out or something like that. It's like, seriously, it's why when you buy 8 hot dogs or you buy 10 hot dogs, there's 8 buns, or you buy 8 hot dogs, there's 10 buns.
Right.
Wait, why aren't there 8 buns and 8 hot dogs?
Or when you tell the listening audience a story at a bar with a hot lady, the actual end of the story fits the story that you were telling in the first place and has nothing to do with painting a house.
That's
Craig.
what was funny about it. Is not what you're expecting.
Oh, no, I like the story. Look, Craig, it's been a huge year for weed 2020.
Yes,
up
it has.
67% in sales and consumption.
Wow.
I know, right? But here's what I want to say to the listeners. I know they want me to talk about that, but I just wanted for 2021, for everyone out there I know that I communicate with on a daily basis, and this includes you, Craig, I'm done communicating with emojis, okay? It's bad enough that we stop talking face-to-face with one another, that we have to text one another, but now texting has ended in place of emoji communication. Whenever I send a text to my kids or group text to the guys I bike with or whatnot, I get little hearts and stars and ha-has and likes back and this and that. I just want to communicate with people. I just want to talk. I want to hear your voice, Craig. In fact, Craig, guess what? No longer am I texting you. I don't want you to send me any cute emojis that you send me all the time. I want to hear your voice, period.
I send you one emoji, and it's usually a thumbs up. That's the only emoji
I don't want a thumbs up.
You.
I want you to call me on the phone and say, hey, Todd, what, Craig? That's great. Great job. That's all I want. Enough with the emoji, enough with the texting. I want face-to-face communication. I was born in the 60s. That's who we are, and that's who we will always be, folks. We will be that generation. So enough of that, Craig Russell.
Whatever, old man Levitt. Whatever. Get those kids off your lawn while you're at it.
I don't listen.
5 years.
The lady. I just think all the listeners out there will agree. If somebody tells you a joke, it should open the door right away for an appropriate joke on the comeback. That's all I'm saying. And this lady, she wasn't having it. And in fact, on the way out, I said to her, "What, are you going to ban me from the store now?" Just like that. I did say that too.
Are you going to go back to that store?
I have since.
See?
I changed up my hat and my face mask. She has no idea who I am. And that's all I did.
And on that happy note, the show is over, Todd. We got to go.
Happy New Year, everyone out there. Craig, man, I just appreciate everyone at Black Diamond Group, all the listeners, all of our friends and family. 2021 is going to be a much better year than 2020, and we are happy to have kicked it off right here with all this positive karma and positive energy, because when you are down, there is nowhere to go but up, Craig. Nowhere to go but up. And look, I just want to say this going into 2021, if you're making these New Year's resolutions, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always change. And, change is good. And you can do it. Just take baby steps. But it can happen. I've seen it happen as a lawyer. I've seen men and women of all ages, 30s, 40s, 20s, 50s, 60s, even in some of their 70s, who have changed. And when they change, it changes everyone around them. So, positive energy results in positive actions, positive reactions. And so 2021 is going to be a great year, Craig, for everyone out there. Much better.
Yes, it will be. And we appreciate you and everything that you do, Todd. And I can't wait for 2021 to come and kick the crap out of 2020. Because it was
You got it. And to throw back the end of the show, I'm not just a litigator. I'm an advocator. Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle, one of my best friends. Take us out, brother.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Malley Well Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, and attorney Todd L. Levitt, not just a litigator, he's an advocator.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.